along with Israel bombing 4 countries in the past few days, Egypt, Lebanon, Palestine, and Syria. The U.S. is also bombing Syria. They're claiming it's linked to Iran. This is from the AP. U.S. fighter jets strike Iran-linked sites in Syria in retaliation for attacks on U.S. troops. Now, I'm not on the ground there, so I can't speak to whether Iran had anything to do with this. My guess would be no, because the U.S. just likes anti-Iranian propaganda. But there clearly was, I assume, some sort of attack on U.S. troops in Syria. Now, you would think a common response to hearing that U.S. troops in Syria were attacked might be to go, why are U.S. troops in Syria? Like, shouldn't we ask that question?
I feel like that's the question, fill in the blank, any country. Why are U.S. troops in anywhere?
When you're told U.S. troops in Syria were attacked, you should go, what
are you doing there?
There? Have we invaded Syria? Well, in fact, yes, we have.
We have.
And we continue to hold something like 10% of Syria as our own. And Aaron Mate pointed out that if you're wondering why we're there, well, the Pentagon has actually been kind enough to tell you. But of course, it's not repeated by our mainstream media. But here is the Pentagon's Dana Stroul talking about why the U.S. is in Syria and talking about owning the resource-rich area of Syria.
Owning.
Okay. She actually uses the word owning.
Okay.
The United States still had compelling forms of leverage on the table to shape an outcome that was more conducive and protective of U.S. interests. And we identified 4. So the first one was the 1/3 of Syrian territory that was owned via the U.S. military with its local partner, the Syrian Democratic Forces. Now, this was a light footprint on the U.S.
Owned by 1/3 of Syria, owned by the United States. With its partner, which the U.S. basically created.
Military, only about 1,000 troops.
Light footprint of the U.S. military, 1,000 troops. Now, if 1,000 troops from any other country invades a country, do we call that a light footprint or do we call that an invasion?
Also, what does that even mean?
Light footprint?
Yeah.
It means not more than 1,000 troops.
Oh, but where does that end? Like, how much is a light foot? Like, is 2,000 still light?
Well, that's my point. They're just making up what is a light footprint.
Over the course of the Syria Study Group's report, and then the tens of thousands of forces, both Kurdish and Arab, under the Syrian Democratic Forces. And that 1/3 of Syria is the resource-rich, it's the economic powerhouse of Syria.
So we own, she used the word own, 1/3 of Syria that is the resource-rich economic powerhouse of Syria. We have stolen 1/3 of Syria's most oil-rich areas.
So where the hydrocarbons are, which...
Hydrocarbons, that means oils.
Obviously is very much in the public debate here in Washington these days, as well as the agricultural powerhouse. But we argue that it wasn't just about this 1/3 of Syrian territory that the U.S. military and our military presence owned.
There you go. U.S. military and our military presence owned.
Both to fight ISIS and also as leverage for affecting the overall political process.
As leverage.
Toppling governments.
And harming people. By leverage, she means you cut off she said the food powerhouse, you cut off the wheat, and you cut off the oil. And now, here's the success. We did it. 94% of Syrians are below the poverty line. 94% of Syrians are so poor, they often don't have electricity. They often don't have gas to cook food. They don't have medical supplies. So Lord knows how many are dying from these things. So we're killing them. We're causing extreme poverty. They're drinking dirty water. That, for us, for our sociopaths, is considered a success. We did it.
Sometimes I'm not shocked, but sometimes I wonder, like, how can you be saying those words and be like, yeah, this is good? Like, how can you be that?
They're sociopaths. We have a system that they lack all empathy for other humans, and they just want to win.
Okay.
So I thought I'd just bring that to people real quick as to, did Syrian forces attack Americans? Why are Americans in Syria?
Are Americans there?
That should be the question. And luckily, the Pentagon has told us it's so we can own, quote unquote, a third of Syria.